Boeing's CEO was in Washington this weekend, and the Washington panel of senators or House members were grilling him big time. Ted Cruz, was it Ted Cruz? I think it was Ted Cruz said, you're the CEO of the company and the buck stops here. So the CEO does apologize, but he declines to say if he'll resign. Notice that someone already did take the fall. The CEO, not the CEO, the president of the company, and I do not recall his name, did get fired. All right. And the CEO was actually moved off of the head of the board of directors. He's still on the board, but he's no longer the head of the board. And I think a lot of people are saying that he's not taking enough accountability as being at the head of the helm why those two planes crashed and killed as many people as it did. So what he said in this story, we are sorry deeply and truly. CEO Dennis Muhlenberg tells families of those killed in the 737 MAX crashes in his opening statement before the Senate, not the House, but the Senate Commerce Committee. And it was interesting that the judge allowed those people with the deceased family members to sit in the court with those pictures of the deceased family members, which I think had to be heartbreaking, excuse me, for the CEO to have to sit there, listen to the grilling, and see those pictures sitting behind him. So, not that I condone it, and there are repercussions to your actions. And if you read the story, there's talking about possibly he knew about the defects in the plane prior to the planes going up and that they still crashed. And he walked into the committee through software upgrades to limit he walked through the software updates to limit the authority of the MCAS stall prevention system that has been linked to both crashes, as well as changes to improve safety oversight and transparency inside the company. So he looked at a lot of different things. He's saying, listen, we're going through the process of fixing it. And I think the Senate is still saying, I don't know if you're doing enough. Now, this is going to affect what they feel should be happening with the planes getting off of being grounded by December. I'm not sure that he's going to get his wish. And that could definitely hurt Boeing even more. So it was testimony over what happened. The Senate really got after him. And, I'm thinking that the company might actually put some pressure on him to resign. That's just a personal opinion. All right, so let's take this. Let's go look at the stock in the software. Let's get back into the VectorVest software. Let's add that. So we'll go to the same watch list that I'm in. All right, we'll add in Boeing, and I'm going to also add in some of the other stocks that are in that industry, like Lockheed Martin. Your Northrop Grumman is in there. That's one of them. There we go. So I'm going to look at three of the biggest ones: Boeing, Lockheed, and Northrop. All right, and I want to look at Airbus too. I'm going to take these four. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to add them to my watch list. Add to watch list. And I'm going to put that into my Trending Thursday, 1031. So again, I'm walking you through the process of what I normally do as a means so that you can get to the habit of doing it as well. I am going to close that. Let's go back to my watch list. And there they are. Ta-da! All right, so the story was on Boeing, but I'm looking at other stocks within that industry. So let's go look at Northrop, Lockheed, Boeing, and Airbus. I got a story about Airbus as well. Look at it on a day like today, all of these stocks are going down. All right, notice that Northrop Grumman, undervalued. Value means what we feel the stock is currently worth. And we get an easy way of trying to find if the stock is under or over its value. It is not a profit target. We look at earnings and earnings growth rate as a part of looking at value to determine what a stock is currently worth, what we feel it's worth. Lockheed Martin, trading under its value. It's trading at 376 with a value of 501. Boeing still trading under its value at a price of $341, value of $420, and Airbus trading at $35 versus $37, slightly undervalued. We're going to call that fairly valued. Airbus did pick up a big contract, and we'll talk about that in a second. RV, the stock's long-term price appreciation potential as compared to an alternative investment is AAA corporate bond. This is going to help us to answer the question, would we rather hold the bond, that AAA corporate bond, over the next 1 to 3 years, or this stock? Above the value of 1, these indicators, RV, RS, RT, VST, and CI, are all cast on a scale between 0 and 2, where above 1 is favorable. So we make it simple. RV is above the value of 1 at 1.47. With RV, what we're saying is that this stock should outperform that AAA corporate bond by 47% over the next 1 to 3 years. That's telling long-term I'd like to hold that stock. Lockheed, same scenario, 1.51, should outperform that AAA corporate bond by 51% over the next 1 to 3 years. Boeing, we still, even with what's going on with Boeing, still has a high relative value at 1.38, whereas Airbus is at the bottom of the list by way of RV at 1.04, but still above the value of 1. Safety, the ability of the stock to consistently and predictably meet or exceed earnings expectations. It's also an indicator of risk for the stock. Northrop Grumman, 1.45, good safety. This tells me that when earnings comes out, this stock has a very high probability of meeting or exceeding earnings. Lockheed Martin, 1.35, also should have a high probability of meeting or exceeding earnings. Boeing, not nearly as high as safety as the other two, but still above the value of 1, and Airbus below the value of 1. This tells me when Airbus has earnings, it may not have nearly as high a probability to meet or exceed its earnings. And it's a little more riskier as a stock than the other three. Relative timing tells me if the stock is in an uptrend or not. Notice that the only stock that's got an RT above 1 is Airbus, telling me that with that new contract that they are picking up, like I said, we're going to talk about in a second, the stock is picking up, moving up in price, where RT is now above the value of 1. The stock is currently in an uptrend, where the other three, which have good fundamentals, right now may not be the right time to buy because the stock's RTs are below the value of 1. Now, the master indicator that we use for ranking stocks is the VST, which stands for value, safety, and timing, like relative value, relative safety, relative timing, all tied up into one indicator. Above the value of 1, the stock overall is a good stock. The higher above 1 it is, the higher the stock altogether is as far as value, safety, and timing. Why is the S&P value 1? Isn't RV in comparison to S&P and not the bond? No. RV looks at the stock's overall long-term price appreciation potential, which is compared to a bond. All right, so now on something like the S&P, it is an index. Because it's an index or an ETF, it's going to be hard to calculate RV and RS on an index. That's the reason why RV and RS are at 1. And remember, RV looks at the long-term price appreciation potential, where relative safety looks at the stock's consistency and predictability of financial performance. When I'm looking at an ETF either looks at an index or a group of stocks. It's hard to put values of RV and RS on an ETF or an index. All right, so that is where it is. All right, just want to be able to put that out there. Only one of the stocks are a buy, and that is Airbus, and that's because the stock is above its stop price, which is $32.60, trending away from its stop price. RT is above 1 and VST is above 1. That is the only stock that's got a buy recommendation out of these. Let's go look at their graphs, all right? As I look at the 1-year graph with the 20-day exponential moving average, let's move it down a little bit. How about Northrop Grumman? Look at the 1-year earnings on the graph. It is forecasted earnings, but look at it rock and roll. Put this on a 3-month graph. Now, earnings look great, but not the right time to be in the stock because the stock is doing what? Pulling back. Currently below the 20-day exponential moving average, but we understand the fundamentals behind the stock are good. Right now may not be the right time to be in the stock. I would prefer to see the stock with the rising earnings and above the 20-day exponential moving average. How about being able to manage the trade when the stock's price falls below? Good time to get out. When it goes back above, good time to be in. Let's go look at the next stock, which is Lockheed Martin. Same kind of scenario. So the stocks within the industry, you ever heard the statement, birds of a feather flock together? If the stocks within the industry are all looking alike, that's going to pull down the whole industry because birds of a feather flock together. But what I do like about LMT or Lockheed Martin, today it did rise above the 20-day exponential moving average, but with the downtrending day to day, it did pull further back below it. Keep in mind that the direction of the market affects 80% of the stocks in the market. Yesterday, the stock's price did bump above that 20-day exponential moving average, but today did not get followed through with that break above. Earnings is dropping off a little bit, but still higher than it was 3 months ago. Let's go to the next stock, which is Boeing. This is the stock that's in the news. With the hearing and everything going along with it, clearly below the 20-day exponential moving average. Recently, Boeing missed earnings, got hit, tried to do a rebound coming off of that hammer formation on candlestick. Right now, the stock is moving sideways, but still below the 20-day exponential moving average. Not the right time to get into it, and not the right time to short it yet either. I wouldn't think about shorting this stock until it breaks below that level of support as a means to show you that the stock was still moving down in price. Let me darken that line. Look at that intraday wick of a low, drawing that support line right there. Stock's price is moving sideways, as I mentioned, below the 20-day exponential, but I wouldn't think about shorting it just quite yet. I like, from a shorting perspective, that the stock is trending lower. But look at here. It moved sideways before it got hit. Look at what it's doing now, moving sideways. I want some more confirmation of more downward move if the stock is going to be shorted. Let's go to the next graph, which is Airbus. Look at that. This is the only one out of the group that is nicely above the 20-day exponential moving average, moving higher. Today is just a bad day to be in the stock. But you know what else I do like about it? That even though it's moving down, a lot of people are pushing it down. There's a lot of interest behind this as well. And what is that candlestick pattern? If you don't know, that's a candlestick pattern known as a bearish harami, which could be a precursor to the stock having some more downside. All right. So those are the graphs that are looking at those 4 stocks. The story was on Boeing, but we looked at the other stocks that were in that industry as well. Let's see what's going on here. Please elaborate on RV. Let me break it down for you a different way. Let me right click on the stock. Let's go to the full stock analysis report. Let me move that over. This is always a good way to get a better understanding of all of our indicators. RV is an indicator of long-term price appreciation potential. Those are the key words. The potential for the stock's price to go higher over the next 1 to 3 years. It's got an RV of 1.47, which is excellent on a scale between 0 and 2. This indicator is far superior to simple comparison of price and value because it is computed from an analysis of projected price appreciation 3 years out. So as I add that, saying that it's looking at the comparison to a AAA corporate bond, you know that when you buy a bond, after it matures, you get all your money back from the bond with a small interest. It is a safer investment that I'm pretty much guaranteed that I'm going to get my money back. Well, what if I'm in a stock as compared to that? Where would I rather have my money? In that safer bond that's going to pay me out that little interest, even though I know it's pretty much guaranteed that I'm going to get my money back, or in a stock that should have the higher probability of going or surpassing what the return will be on that AAA corporate bond. That is the purpose behind RV. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Now, if you're new to the software or would like refresher information about the software, click on this Getting Started video right here. Thanks to all of your input, here's a YouTube video that we think would be perfect for you. Click right here. If nothing else, folks, just hit the subscribe button right here.